or when you're speaking, when the sound system, I mean, we've had people in here investigating, we've even had Ghostbusters in here looking for what's making the noise. The best theory is that there's some sort of wire touching another wire somewhere back there. And until we rip everything out and get a whole new sound system, we have it. But the point is that isn't life so like that? It's going to throw you a few sounds or a few curveballs that you don't want. And seriously, our spiritual walk is mostly about dealing with that stuff, you know? And like, they just sang. Isn't that awesome? And after, like at first I feel like I have this weird guilt thing. Oh my God, that's so good. I wish it didn't, you know, and then I realize it's beautiful. They're beautiful. I can enjoy every sound they make, even if there's crunchy noise. And it's not the sound people's fault at all, by the way. They didn't do anything wrong. And they, you know, it's just a great example of life. Now, the 4 topics. The first topic is, I'm going to give you a report from Zach. You know, Sandy Hoover has been going through a health challenge with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I want to read an email he sent. I am pleased to say that with the generosity and kindness of Unity Folk and others, we have been able to purchase something way more comfortable for Sandy to rest and recover on. She is tremendously relieved to have a nice space for healing. It certainly has been a challenging year on all fronts, still trying to reconcile that it's May already. We are hanging in there. Sandy has been a real champ and is still managing to keep her spirits up most of the time. She has 2 more 1-week treatments left. She has them once a month, I think, around then. Needless to say, she is definitely ready to be done, as each treatment is a little rougher. It certainly is an ever-changing roller coaster ride. Recent tests have indicated the tumor has decreased in mass quite a bit, so we remain very positive that this should all be behind us by the end of summer. And he says, I'm welcome to share this with the congregation. Please also share that we miss connecting with the community and look forward to doing so once things settle a bit. Sandy is thankful for the cards and well wishes. And Zach ended with, you know, in looking at the burst, it seems things are rolling right along. We are sorry to have missed so many great offerings, but we're looking forward to when they come back too. And you know, that's just a little real snapshot of what being in community means, right? How we are here for each other and what we do for each other in community. And the next thing I want to talk about is God. I often don't just use the word God, and I want to tell you why. Because I believe that God is too big to have one word. You know, the one of our congregants was telling me that he used to sing a song with Yahweh in it, and then somebody told him that, well, in some Jewish faith, they don't really want you to say the word Yahweh. That Yahweh is not really supposed to be said. It's the unnameable, you know, because God is so big. And a lot of times I'll say Christ within, you know, sometimes they even say Buddha within, true self, all that stuff. And sometimes we say Jesus. And some of our songs say Lord, and some of them say God, and some of them don't say God. So it's because in unity, we don't have a dogma. We say you are your connection to God. You. And you get to decide what to call God. You know, last week I talked about that a little bit. But I really wanted to emphasize how whether when you feel connected, you know, if you see Jesus, if you see Father God, if you see Mother God, if you see, I studied a little bit of Hinduism, and they have a whole panoply of gods, you know, which represents an aspect of the one God. It's not like they think there's a bunch of gods. They like to pray to one, or they deal with one aspect of God, like Ganesha is one aspect, or Hanuman is an aspect. And then in Buddha, they don't really act, in a way, Buddha was a guy. He was not God. He was a guy who came and taught us some really cool things. And so God is so big for them, they barely even talk. I don't even think they have a word for God. But I'm not I am not a massive student about other religions. Truly, the religion I know the most about is Christianity, because that's what I grew up with and that's what I studied in seminary, even though we studied other religions too. That's the one I know about. And most of the sacred scripture I've studied has been the Bible. And I do have a love for the people who wrote the Bible, the teachings of the Bible, and Jesus Christ, the way shower. I have a love for all of those. All of the spiritual leaders and all of the writers and all of the people who connect us to God. So that's topic number 2. Now, who was here when the bergamot was here? Who was here? Okay. Well, I've got the most amazing video that they sent out that we're going to watch. This is topic number 3, so I'm going to turn off the lights and you're going to watch it. It's a beautiful sermon and song in one.
Train to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
In a cafe up in Brooklyn, there are 2 people falling in love. Up the street there, about a mile away, there are 2 people shooting up. Now the world can seem so strange when you're only a mile away, but we must stand tall. Together we rise, apart we fall. We left Seattle with some pictures and just a little spare change. And we got to Portland, and there were some crooks there who broke into our car and stole it away. Now the world can seem so strange when you're only a mile away, but we must stand tall. Together we rise, apart we fall. Fall asleep, my dear, with the winds of Santa Fe. I run my fingers through your hair as the curtains sway. And 1 mile down, they are pulling guns and raids on our brothers who don't look the same. Now the world can seem so strange when you're only a mile away, but we must stand tall. Together we rise, apart we fall. stand tall. Together we rise, apart we fall. Apart we fall.
Really love that, especially because we were so lucky as to have them come through, give us a concert, and be here on a Sunday. And Jillian gave the talk on a Sunday. The interesting thing is I feel really connected to them, or I feel like they're a part of my community now. Because of how they showed up. They showed up just clear and true and who they are, who they were, who they are, it really impressed me the way they showed up. And they showed up okay with how many people were here, how many people weren't here. And they showed up ready to, to me, they were the example of just being who they were and sharing their gifts. One of the things about showing up is that sometimes showing up takes a lot of courage, right? Showing up takes a lot of courage. In fact, seriously, sometimes even coming into a church room takes a lot of courage. I can remember one time I was at a conference at Unity Village, and I don't know what was going on with me. I think I had to be there. It was part of being a licensed teacher, and I had to go to a conference, and it wasn't the one I wanted to go to. My boss, the minister at Unity of Boulder, said, "This is the one you have to go to. This is the only time you can be gone." So I went, and there's a lot of people so happy to be there. And one of the first things I did was somebody was leading one of those songs where you have to look into somebody's eyes. And I was like, oh, are you frickin' kidding me? So perhaps you've encountered one of those. I may have even led one, I don't know. But I did that thing where you turn into a robot and, because I didn't want to share my pain. I'll tell you what, now what I would do, I would look into someone's eyes and cry or be cranky or whatever, and I would say, you know what? Whatever. I would not be the robot. I would say no to the robot. So that's why showing up requires courage, sometimes just to walk into the room. Now I got reconnected to Brene Brown. That woman just keeps writing great stuff. We are so gonna do some book studies on her new book and her old book again, maybe July and August. True belonging doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. That's what Brene Brown says. True belonging doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. And Brene, if you haven't read, whatever the brave one is. Yeah. And she has some really amazing stories about how much she wanted to belong and how painful it was not to belong, and how instead of belonging, she tried to fit in. And we all get the difference between belonging and fitting in. And I still find myself unconsciously either, dampening something down in me or squishing something out in me to fit in, right? It's such a it's a pattern, and we learn it probably in our, we learn it from our family. Families have ways of being. We definitely learn it at school, and we learn it at work. And that's why this place is magical, because we're lunatics. We're a little loony. We are hoping for you to be just a little bit twisted in a happy way, right? So the zen of that, of not trading fitting in for showing up authentically, is that sometimes, and I know you know this, sometimes your authentic self is not who you want to be yet, right? Your authentic self in the moment is not the one who has a dress on and high heels and makeup for all you guys, right? It's not you. It's not the one who looks good. It's not the one who, maybe sometimes you're showing up and you're not open-hearted. Right? So the zen of that is to start where you are. Which reminded me of the book Pema Chodron wrote. It's actually called Start Where You Are. And I was thinking that two of my best teachers, a lot of my teachers, the live ones, they do audiobooks, they do videos, so I feel like I get to know them. I feel like I know Brene Brown and Pema Chodron quite a lot. And I love that they are actually two sides of my mind. For example, Brene addresses the organized worksheet. There's always something we can do, part of us. She has steps and worksheets and processes. And then Pema Chodron embraces the mindfulness, the embrace what is. Start with accepting just exactly where you are and let it in, and then you can transform. And both people, both Brene and both Pema, also have each other's sides, but that's what they represent to me. And here's the deal. There are steps or practices to apply. There are what I like to call spiritual practice. In old-time unity, which just means some of the things that were written 60 years ago or even 100 years ago, I have run across a lot of this phrase. Unity is a practical approach to Christianity. Or they say it's applied Christianity. And some other new thought, I think Church of Religious Science, which is now Divine Science, actually, Centers for Spiritual Living, they call prayers treatments, and they call their prayer partners practitioners. To me, that also feels a little like it's not language that works for me right in my mind, but you see why they do it. It's because it's about practicing. It's a question I ask people when they come to see me for spiritual counseling. One of the first things I ask is, what's your spiritual practice? Or what's your practice? How do you get in touch with how do you get in touch with God? What do you do? What do you do every week or every day? What's your spiritual practice? What do you do? Well, I'm heading toward exploring the pain of trying to fit in. Remember the last time you tried to fit in and you sacrificed your authentic self. It's so, so painful. There's also the pain of not belonging. If you feel like you don't belong, we almost automatically think we have to change ourselves. And Brené's whole book is about how the only real belonging is to yourself, and then you belong everywhere and nowhere. So you belong to yourself, and you belong everywhere and nowhere, so you can walk in. I would love to say that I belong everywhere and nowhere every minute of the time, but it's something I'm working on. And what I do is I do spiritual practice so that I can get better at it, and so that I don't just go to my default habits. Look at the people you admire. I know you all have some. And when you think about it, who you admire is probably somebody who stands out a little bit. Just like that cutie pie there. I mean, talk about belonging to yourself, right? And knowing and not having to fit in, but just being your authentic self. That's what we want, right? We want that ability, that to be able to get up and dance or wiggle or whatever it is that you want to do. I mean, we have a convention that when you listen to somebody talk, you sit still and you listen. That's okay. But how, and I don't think I'm hurting any of you when you're sitting there. I don't think anybody feels stifled. But where do we do that to ourselves? I want y'all to look at that. Look at the people you admire and notice that it is because they have their own unique expression of who they are. And then notice that you too have this awesome, unique expression of who you are. And that's what unity, which starts with you, is all about for me, and why we keep coming together. It's why Sundays make me feel so happy, and why everybody here contributes and shows up to a meeting on Saturday, and the things that are going to happen here. I'll tell you what, we're actually, have you ever held the balloon down in the water or beach ball? That's what's happening right now. Unity is about, this little community here is about to burst. We're kicking away the hands that are holding us. We're kicking away our old hands when we hold our spirit down, right? We're saying, okay, I'm going to let this scary, wild, crazy spirit of mine burst out of I'm going to quit holding it down in the water. I'm going to pop it up. And then we're doing that as a community too. And it's awesome and exciting. Now, so we are a community of people who are fearless to be, free to be, happy to be, and encouraging each other to be our own unique expression, who we are. So let's take an offering for unity.